to Congressman Castle, Lieutenant Governor Den, to Auditor Wagner, Insurance Commissioner Weldon Stewart, and Treasurer Jones Potter, to Senate President Pro Tem Adams, Speaker of the House Gilligan, members of the General Assembly, to Justice Steele and members of the Judiciary, to former Governors Wolf and Peterson, former Lieutenant Governor Carney, to Bishop Malooly and Rabbi Grumbacher, to the representatives of Canada, Chile, Israel, Italy, Japan, Sweden, and Taiwan, who have honored us with their presence here today, to Carla and Molly and Michael, to my brother David, my sister Judy, to Mom and Dad, and my in-laws as well. They're sitting right in the front row. And to my fellow Delawareans. Nearly a half-century ago, President John Kennedy declared, "Let the word go forth from this time and place that the torch has been passed to a new generation." That torch has been passed again in a ritual that marks the constant renewal, reinvention, and revival of the spirit that has made America and Delaware great. It is a torch that continues to light our way, even in the darkest times. And from the beginning, progress for America has originated here in Delaware. The ratification of the Constitution, establishing the greatest democracy the world has ever known, was led by our state. And today, our nation is led by President Barack Obama and by our new Vice President, Delaware's own Joseph R. Biden, Jr. Yesterday's historic inaugural marked the realization of change that we truly can believe in. It reinforces our faith that America can still meet any challenge and that our best days do indeed lie ahead. This is the American creed, and Delaware has lit the way. We lit the way in the dim aftermath of the Revolutionary War, with our new nation's economy laid low by staggering war debts. The passing of Delaware's own independence hero, Caesar Rodney, underscored a sense that we were losing our richer past. Yet in those uncertain times, a torch was passed. The very next year, in 1785, Oliver Evans of Newport invented automatic flour milling machinery that revolutionized the industry. Not long after, a French refugee, E.I. DuPont, began manufacturing gunpowder along the Brandywine River, and Delaware emerged as an engine of economic prosperity. 2 centuries later, in the wake of the Great Depression, Dr. Wallace Carothers invented the first synthetic fiber, again revolutionizing the American way of life and Delaware's economy. And we have risen from challenge to create new opportunity time after time. With the War of 1812 raging around us, Delaware's Peter Spencer founded the African Union First Colored Methodist Protestant Church, the first independent African-American denomination in the United States. It was the beginning of a new struggle for freedom and equality that stretched through the establishment on the ashes of the Civil War of Howard High School, Delaware's first for African Americans. And one Howard student, Lewis Redding, became our state's first African American lawyer and a champion of civil rights. Redding's advocacy led to the 1952 ruling by Judge Collins Seitz that separate but equal is un-American and unconstitutional, the first such court decision in the United States. And on the backs of these Delaware giants, President Barack Obama stood yesterday as he took the oath of office. Today is a celebration of the knowledge that the audacity of hope makes all things possible in our time. But these times are also marked by an abiding belief that America needs new leadership to tackle the challenges we face as a nation. Increased global competition for our workers, the collapse of the capital markets that businesses need to grow, the vanishing of retirement savings, and our recognition so late in the game that climate change represents real peril to our Earth. These are the defining challenges of the moment. It is not, however, these challenges, but how we meet them that will define us as a people. I believe that we will overcome and that our best days do indeed lie ahead. And it's not that the challenges we face are insubstantial. Here in Delaware, in fact, it's not too much to say that they are historic. Historic unemployment, historic budget deficits, historic and hard decisions to make. Already, too many Delawareans are out of work, and that number will climb as people laid off at the end of last year move into the unemployment lines. These are the factory workers from Seaford who stitched together the fabric of our nation for decades, but whose industries have unraveled. They are contractors, electricians, painters, and realtors whose jobs collapsed with the national housing market. They're the proud workers on Chrysler assembly lines that made the tanks that won World War II, but now make nothing at all. They are our neighbors. They're our friends, they're our families, and there are more of them than at any point in Delaware history. And the smallest shudder from the national economy could add thousands more to those roles. And sadly, the nation's financial crises have engulfed our state government, just when people most need its help. We face the largest budget shortfall in state history, dramatically larger than anything we've ever faced in our lifetimes. And unlike the federal government, Delaware, by law, must balance its budget every year. So from today to the end of this fiscal year in June, we must find a way to cut our spending by more than $100 million. And simultaneously, we must create and pass a budget for the next fiscal year that eliminates another $600 million, nearly 20% of our entire state budget. We all know that this is an enormous budgetary shock for a small state to absorb. The state is in the position of millions of American families today whose bills continue to climb, but whose income has fallen. How do families cope? They start, of course, by eliminating unneeded expenses, turning the thermostat down, postponing big purchases, canceling vacations. We will do what families do. We'll trim every ounce of fat from our budget. Beginning this very afternoon, we will launch a statewide performance audit to uncover and eliminate unnecessary expenditures throughout this government. I believe there are millions of dollars of waste and inefficiency to eliminate from government. We will find it. However, given the magnitude of our financial crisis, cutting waste will not be enough. Like the struggling American families who have cut and still come up short, we will have to make further painful sacrifices. That means cutting back on many government functions and services, even some that we all agree are needed. This will not be easy. It will not be painless, but we will do it, and we will prevail. We are not here today merely to steady the ship in a storm, but to embark upon high seas and to sail into stiff headwinds in the hope and indeed the faith that we can and we will, as always, bring our children and families home to a brighter future. We'll trim our sails as we must to make it through the current gales, but we will not simply lie down as the waves crash over us. This storm will pass, a new day will arrive, and we must be prepared to seize that day, too, when it comes. We will not wait. We will start building today. I see beyond the gray clouds to a brighter Delaware, a Delaware where every child can grow to his or her full potential, where every worker has the opportunity to earn as much as possible, where every family has the health care, the housing, and the heat that they need to lead a decent life. A Delaware that's the best place in the world to go to school, to raise a family, to start a business. And we will get there only if, in fact, because we dare to be bold in the face of adversity. We want to start by using the anticipated federal stimulus money not just to build short-term jobs, but to create future growth in energy infrastructure and in a greener economy. We will not wait to set in motion longer-term reforms that will place Delaware at the forefront of the 21st century economy. And the basis for that economy is education. And we must make Delaware's education system the best in the world. We currently rank near the top in the nation for education spending for students. It's time we rank in the top for education results for students. We will spend smarter. We'll demand accountability from top to bottom. We will retain, recruit, and train the best teachers in America, and we will reward them for carrying out the most valuable job in America. We will demand the performance and promote the innovation. We'll provide the flexibility to make every school in this state great. And when our schools produce those top-flight scholars and engineers and nurses, we will send a message to employers around the world that they can find the workers they want here in Delaware. And by creating a 21st century workforce development system that trains workers for the jobs that employers need, we'll make the term Delaware workforce a high-quality credential that employers trust. And with that world-class workforce, we'll attract the industries of the future. Building on all of our intellectual and natural resources, we will create a first-in-the-nation statewide climate prosperity initiative. We'll expand our efforts to promote entrepreneurship, financial literacy, and asset building. And the ultimate goal of all of these innovations will be to promote people-centered, community-based development that makes virtually every Delawarean an economic resource rather than a financial responsibility. Our commitment to supporting Delaware families will not waver. We'll work with the federal government to finally bring affordable health care to every Delawarean. We'll develop a public safety plan to keep every street in Delaware safe, and we'll start by opening up our state government itself. I pledge that my administration will be more transparent and accountable than any that have come before. Some might call this agenda ambitious. Some might even call it audacious. But audacity is exactly what this day demands. To brave that raging storm, to dare upon the roiling sea, and still to reach for the further shore. My fellow Delawareans, that is our challenge. That is our charge. That is our task. And this is our time. Lifetimes from now, if an acquiring descendant of one of us here today should come across these words in the deep recesses of Delaware's beautiful public archives building next door, may they bring to mind a time when a determined people overcame one of the greatest economic challenges of their history, and as they had time and again before, embraced the challenge and pulled themselves back up to the pinnacle of success. When they joined hands in common cause, rather than falling to division and dissension. When a people understood that just because you cannot predict the future, it does not mean you cannot create it. When the torch was passed to a new generation, and against great odds, like those before them, they carried it higher. Let us be that people. Let us be remembered as that generation. Let us seize these times. As John Kennedy told us, as he took up that torch 48 years ago, all this will not